The revolution of Cancer begins not with noise, but with a tidal movement that reshapes the very foundations of existence. It is the revolution of the heart, of memory, and of emotional truth rising like waves against walls that once seemed unbreakable. Born under the rule of the moon, Cancer carries within itself the rhythm of the tides, the silent authority of cycles that cannot be denied, and the unshakable certainty that what is nurtured in the soul will one day overflow into the world. This revolution is not built on conquest of lands or the burning of thrones, but on the reclamation of feeling, on the restoration of tenderness as power, on the sacred uprising of sensitivity against a world hardened by indifference. In this revolution, the armor is not steel but empathy. The shield is not forged from iron but from the deep waters of intuition. Cancer rises as a force that does not simply resist but transforms. Where there is coldness, it plants warmth. Where there is distance, it forges bonds. Where there is abandonment, it creates belonging. Its revolution is a return to origins, to the womb of creation, to the timeless truth that all life emerges from care and protection. The power of Cancer is that of the healer who does not flee from wounds, of the guardian who stands unyielding at the threshold of home, of the soul who understands that true strength is not found in domination but in preservation. The cosmic energy of this sign moves like a river, wearing down mountains not with violence but with persistence. It teaches that revolutions do not always arrive with fire. They also come with water, reshaping landscapes with unstoppable determination. Cancer embodies the revolution that is silent yet indomitable, the one that refuses to let fragility be dismissed as weakness. Its very existence challenges a world that has too often mistaken hardness for resilience and neglect for freedom. The revolution of Cancer is the uprising of memory. It calls the forgotten to return, the silence to speak, the hidden emotions to be honored. It does not allow the past to remain buried in shadows. Instead, it transforms history into nourishment for the future. In this revolution, the ancestors are not gone but present, marching side by side with the living. Every tear shed becomes a banner. Every unspoken feeling becomes a torch. Every moment of care once dismissed becomes the seed of a new dawn. It is an epic rooted in the sanctity of home, yet its home is not only four walls but the vastness of the soul and the embrace of humanity itself. The hearth that Cancer protects is symbolic of the world that can be healed if each being remembers its duty to love, to safeguard, to create continuity. The revolution lies in remembering that nurturing others is an act of defiance against destruction, that to hold another being with gentleness is to wage war against cruelty, that to believe in belonging is to overthrow the reign of isolation. Its revolution is lunar, moving in cycles, teaching that everything has its time, that tides must ebb before they flow, that endings are only preludes to beginnings. It is the revolution of patience, for Cancer knows the slow rhythm of gestation, the sacred wait before birth, the quiet preparation before the storm. This patience itself is power, for it refuses to be rushed by chaos. It listens to deeper laws written in the stars and in the waters of the earth. This sign carries within its revolution the paradox of protection and vulnerability, of tenderness and ferocity. Like the crab, it knows how to defend with claws, but also how to retreat into silence until the moment is right to act. The revolution of Cancer is not reckless. It is wise, it is deliberate, it is enduring. When it strikes, it does so with the inevitability of the tide reclaiming the shore, with the authority of nature that no empire can resist. In the grand astrological epic, the revolution of Cancer is the call to heal before it is too late, the voice of the moon whispering that true change is born within before it can manifest without. It is the promise that the world can be remade not only through the roar of warriors but through the steady heartbeat of those who refuse to stop caring. It is a revolution that reminds the universe that love, once awakened, cannot be extinguished, that the waters of compassion, once released, will flood every desert, and that the softest forces, when united, can overturn the hardest structures. Thus Cancer stands as a revolutionary star, crowned not with fire but with silver light, carrying within its heart the storm and the sanctuary, the wound and the cure, the fragility that becomes unbreakable strength. Its revolution is eternal, for as long as the moon rules the night sky, as long as tides rise and fall, As long as humanity longs to belong, Cancer's uprising will continue, reshaping the world through the unstoppable force of feeling made sacred. The revolution of Cancer carries within it the silent grandeur of destiny, weaving its power not only through the waters of the heart but through the constellations themselves. It is not limited to the intimate realm of home and family, for its influence stretches outward, claiming entire generations with the force of collective emotion. Cancer embodies the revolution of humanity's inner truth, reminding the world that civilizations rise and fall not merely through structures of power or conquest, but through the way souls are nourished, protected, and remembered. At its core, this revolution is also an awakening of the feminine principle in all beings, not as gender but as a universal energy of receptivity, intuition, and creation. For too long, the rhythm of the moon was overshadowed by the harsh glare of unyielding suns. Yet Cancer's uprising restores balance, elevating what was once dismissed as fragile into the realm of immortal strength. In its revolution, the maternal archetype becomes warrior, the guardian becomes visionary, and what was hidden in shadows becomes the very light that guides. This movement does not abolish the masculine but redeems it by teaching it to protect rather than dominate, to serve rather than subdue, to join forces with tenderness rather than fear it. Cancer's revolution is also the revolution of imagination. Governed by the moon, it rules the dream world, the subconscious, the landscapes of memory that lie beneath the surface of waking life. It teaches that revolutions do not always begin with weapons but with visions, with dreams that grow so luminous they cannot be ignored. Through the waters of the subconscious, Cancer plants symbols, archetypes, and sacred images that move entire peoples without a word. Its power lies in reminding humanity that every external battle is first won within, that no empire can outlast the silent resilience of a heart that believes in its vision. The revolution moves not only through time but also through cycles of reincarnation, for Cancer holds the gateway between the seen and the unseen. It is the sign of the ancestors, of lineage, of roots that stretch beneath the soil, carrying wisdom through countless lifetimes. To rise in the revolution of Cancer is to know that one's life is part of a tapestry far larger than the individual self. It is to carry the voices of those who came before and to plant seeds for those who will come after. Every act of care becomes an immortal act, echoing through generations, reshaping the destiny of entire bloodlines. In this way, the revolution transcends the boundaries of one lifetime and becomes cosmic in scale, a tide that carries souls forward across ages. This revolution is not only emotional but also profoundly spiritual. Cancer opens the gates to sacred vulnerability, teaching that the soul is strongest when it allows itself to feel fully, when it dares to break open and release what has been guarded too long. In this breaking, there is a rebirth. The revolution of Cancer is the revelation that wounds can become sources of power, that scars are not signs of weakness but proof of survival, that what was once hidden in silence can one day become the anthem of a new dawn. Cancer's revolution is also aligned with the natural world, for its energy is tied to the tides, the oceans, the fertility of the earth itself. It reminds humanity that to destroy the waters is to destroy the source of life, that to neglect the womb of the earth is to sever the future. Its uprising is ecological, a call to remember the sacredness of rivers, seas, and rain. In this way, Cancer fights not only for the survival of the soul but for the survival of the planet, knowing that the two cannot be separated. To heal the waters of the earth is to heal the waters within, and to heal the waters within is to restore harmony to the earth. The epic quality of this revolution lies in its paradoxical nature. It is both gentle and unstoppable, rooted in stillness yet capable of moving mountains, silent as the moon yet thundering as the waves. This duality gives it its divine strength, for it cannot be contained in one form or understood through one perspective. Cancer teaches that revolutions can be cradles as much as battlefields, that sometimes the most radical act is to protect, to forgive, to create sanctuary where none existed. The revolution of Cancer carries with it a destiny of redemption. It redeems those who have been cast aside, those who have been silenced, those whose hearts were dismissed as too soft for a world obsessed with hardness. It raises the voice of the forgotten and engraves it into eternity. In this revolution, no tear is wasted, no memory discarded, no act of care forgotten. Everything is woven back into the cosmic order, giving meaning even to the pain that once seemed senseless. In the grand astrological story, Cancer's revolution is not a single event but an eternal movement. It is written in every tide, in every rising and setting of the moon, in every heartbeat that dares to love despite the risk of loss. It is the proof that compassion is not weakness but the very force that sustains life. It is the reminder that revolutions need not destroy to triumph, for some of the greatest victories are won in silence, in the unshakable persistence of water's carving stone, in the sacred determination of the soul that refuses to stop caring. And so, the revolution of Cancer continues across ages, eternal as the moon, infinite as the ocean, destined to transform the world not through the fire of conquest but through the inexhaustible tide of love. The revolution of Cancer extends beyond the earthly plane into the very architecture of the cosmos, for it represents not only the awakening of individual souls but also the rebalancing of celestial forces. In the astrological wheel, Cancer stands as the axis of origin, the point where spirit incarnates into matter, where the eternal essence takes form in the fragile shell of existence. Its revolution is therefore a return to the sacred threshold of beginnings, a reminder that every structure of power, every empire, every vision begins with the spark of care, with the first nourishment that allows life to take root. Without the nurturing force of Cancer, no fire of Aries, no wisdom of Sagittarius, no ambition of Capricorn could ever endure. This revolution is a reclamation of the lunar rhythm as a guiding principle for humanity. The moon, in its cycles, reveals the truth that nothing remains static, that all things move through phases of growth, culmination, release, and renewal. Cancer's uprising brings this cyclical wisdom back to a world that often forgets the importance of timing. It teaches that revolutions are not linear ascents but spirals, ever revisiting what was left behind, healing what was wounded, and drawing strength from memory. In its cosmic rhythm, it reminds humanity that progress does not mean severing from the past but weaving the past into the present in order to birth a future infused with meaning. The revolution of Cancer also unveils the hidden strength of silence. While many forces in the zodiac move through action, assertion, or brilliance, Cancer's power often lies in withdrawal, in observation, in the invisible work of gestation. This is the revolution of the unseen, the uprising that brews in the heart long before it is expressed. It is the gathering of tides beneath the surface, the storm that builds in silence until the moment of release. Such a revolution is underestimated by those who only measure strength through noise, yet it proves itself more enduring, for it is not reactionary but elemental, not fleeting but eternal. Within this revolution lives the profound mystery of belonging. Cancer awakens the awareness that no soul is meant to wander in exile, that the greatest human hunger is not for power or possession but for connection. Its uprising tears down the walls of separation, healing the illusions of division that have long fragmented humanity. In the revolution of Cancer, to find one's true home is the ultimate victory, and to create a home for another is the most radical act of transformation. Through this sacred belonging, individuals remember that they are part of a greater cosmic family, tied together by invisible threads that stretch across space and time. The revolution of Cancer carries within it the archetype of the divine protector. Its strength does not come from conquest but from defense, from the unyielding refusal to allow what is sacred to be destroyed. It is the shield of the child, the guardian of the vulnerable, the sentry at the gates of memory. This protective force, when awakened, becomes unstoppable, for it is fueled not by ego but by love. And love, when it burns with the fire of protection, transforms into a force stronger than armies. In this revolution, the tender hand becomes a sword of light, and the quiet guardian becomes a hero of epic proportions. This revolution also encompasses the mystery of transformation through water. Cancer, as a water sign, reveals that change is not always born through force but through dissolution, through softening, through surrender. Just as rivers carve valleys and seas embrace continents, Cancer transforms the hardest realities through persistent flow. Its revolution does not break the world apart but reshapes it with patience, dissolving resistance until harmony is restored. This teaches humanity that yielding is not defeat, that surrender can be power, and that fluidity is a weapon as mighty as fire or steel. At the soul level, the revolution of Cancer is the restoration of the sacred feminine, not as a counterpart but as an equal pillar of creation. It awakens the forgotten temples of intuition, compassion, and cyclical wisdom, calling forth the parts of humanity that honor life rather than exploit it. This return of the feminine principle does not banish the masculine but crowns it with purpose, guiding it away from destruction and into guardianship. The revolution is therefore a union, a reconciliation of forces that have too long warred against each other. Through Cancer, the world learns that balance is not compromise but wholeness, and wholeness is the only path to true power. The epic nature of this revolution lies in its immortality. It is not bound to one era, one nation, or one uprising, but lives eternally in the tides of the human soul. Each act of kindness becomes part of its flame. Each memory honored strengthens its foundation. Each moment of protection adds to its unbreakable force. The revolution of Cancer does not die when empires fall. It endures, for it is carried in the womb of creation itself, in the cycles of the moon, in the eternal ebb and flow of the sea. In the grand story of the zodiac, Cancer's revolution is both sanctuary and storm. It is the promise that what is nurtured will endure, that what is loved will return, that what is protected will one day rise in glory. It is the cosmic uprising that insists that love is not only an emotion but a destiny, not only a comfort but a weapon, not only a whisper but a thunder that shakes the foundations of worlds. In this revolution, the heart becomes the greatest battlefield, and the victory belongs to those who dare to feel with unshakable courage. The revolution of Cancer is also a revolution of time itself, for it does not only concern the present moment but binds together past, present, and future into a single living current. It teaches that the present is never free from the weight of memory, nor can the future be born without honoring what has been carried through generations. In this way, Cancer's uprising acts as a bridge between epochs, reminding humanity that nothing is ever truly lost. What was abandoned can be reclaimed, what was broken can be restored, and what was silenced can resound again with a voice that shakes eternity. The epic force of this sign lies in its ability to rescue forgotten truths and breathe new life into them, transforming history not into a prison, but into a source of sacred strength. This revolution brings forth the mystery of emotional alchemy. Cancer, through its lunar wisdom, knows that emotions are not mere fluctuations of the heart, but portals of transformation. Grief can become compassion, fear can become wisdom, longing can become vision. The waters of the soul are never stagnant, and through Cancer's revolution they are purified, reshaped, and transfigured into luminous force. This alchemy gives birth to leaders who do not lead through domination but through resonance, through the deep ability to reflect the collective spirit and channel it into action. It is a leadership not of command but of embodiment, for Cancer teaches that the most powerful revolutionaries are those who embody the change they wish to bring. The uprising of Cancer is also interwoven with the language of dreams and symbols. Under the moon's influence, Cancer is the keeper of the unconscious, where images, archetypes, and myths dwell. Its revolution awakens humanity to the power of inner vision, for every external transformation must first be imagined. Dreams, often dismissed as fragile illusions, become in Cancer's hands the seeds of reality. This revolution takes shape in the unseen realms long before it manifests in the outer world, proving that imagination is not escape but prophecy. Through this dream power, Cancer builds bridges between the visible and the invisible, reminding all that true revolutions are born in silence, in night, in vision. The revolution of Cancer also carries the sacred flame of reconciliation. It is not merely a force that dismantles the harsh structures of indifference, but also one that heals divisions within the self. Cancer's uprising is a call for humanity to reunite with its inner child, with the forgotten innocence that once saw the world as sacred. It is a revolution that returns the soul to its original purity, stripping away layers of cynicism and hardness to reveal the primal truth that every being longs to love and be loved. When this reconciliation occurs within, it ripples outward, forging unity where there was discord, kinship where there was separation, and harmony where there was chaos. Its revolution expands into the celestial narrative by connecting deeply with the axis it shares with Capricorn, its opposing sign. While Capricorn builds the structures of the external world, Cancer infuses them with soul, ensuring that ambition does not become hollow and that progress does not become cruelty. The revolution of Cancer rises whenever society forgets this balance, restoring humanity to the truth that power without compassion is ruin, and that endurance without care is emptiness. Through this polarity, Cancer becomes the great corrector, a tide that floods cold fortresses and fills them with the warmth of meaning. Its revolution demands that progress be not only measured in achievement but in the capacity to nurture life in all its forms. The epic scale of Cancer's revolution is also revealed in its guardianship of thresholds. It is the sign of entrances and exits, of beginnings and endings, of the mysterious passages between life and death. In this sense, its revolution carries the power to honor transitions, to ensure that no crossing is made without dignity and no ending without continuity. It becomes the keeper of sacred passages, the guardian of souls in moments of vulnerability. This guardianship itself is revolutionary, for it insists that fragility must be revered, that thresholds must be protected, and that every soul deserves to be held as it journeys between worlds. At its deepest level, Cancer's uprising is the revolution of love as destiny. It refuses to let love be reduced to sentiment or fleeting passion. Instead, it elevates it as a cosmic law, the very fabric that binds the universe. This love is not confined to romance or kinship but expands endlessly, encompassing humanity, the earth, the ancestors, and the divine. It is a love that builds, shelters, and endures, a love that insists on creating sanctuaries even in the midst of destruction. In this revolution, love becomes not the soft alternative to strength but the ultimate expression of it, a power vast enough to overthrow despair and eternal enough to outlast death itself. Thus, the revolution of Cancer endures as one of the most profound and unyielding movements within the zodiacal epic. It rises not in firestorms or battles but in tides, in dreams, in memories, in the quiet determination of souls who refuse to let tenderness be erased. It is the revolution that flows through generations, carried in the blood, whispered in the night, remembered in the heart. Its epic nature lies in its eternity, for as long as the moon casts its light upon the earth, as long as the waters continue to move, the revolution of Cancer will prevail, turning fragility into strength, memory into prophecy, and love into the most unbreakable force of all. The revolution of Cancer carries within it the mystery of cycles that cannot be undone, a rhythm older than history itself, for it is not only a sign of birth but also of return. Its uprising reveals that all things move in spirals, that what departs eventually circles back transformed, and that no experience, no wound, no joy is ever wasted. This movement of return is its secret strength, for it teaches that what was once broken can be rebuilt stronger, that what was once lost can be reclaimed with greater meaning, and that nothing of the soul's journey is ever erased from the cosmic record. The revolution of Cancer is therefore eternal renewal, not destruction without purpose but restoration infused with memory. This uprising is also the revolution of protection in its most exalted form. The instinct to guard life, to shield what is sacred, becomes in Cancer not mere defense but holy defiance against forces that diminish or exploit. In this way, Cancer does not only nurture but also wages an invisible war, ensuring that innocence is never abandoned and that tenderness has a sanctuary in even the harshest worlds. This protective quality, when expanded beyond the personal, becomes a cosmic guardianship, an insistence that humanity itself is worth saving, that Earth itself must be defended as the cradle of all life. The epic aspect of this revolution is found in the quiet courage of those who stand unshaken in their devotion to care, for theirs is a power that outlasts armies and silences even the loudest storms. The revolution of Cancer is also a revolution of rhythm, for under the guidance of the moon it teaches alignment with natural laws rather than artificial constructs. The phases of waxing and waning are mirrored in the human spirit, and Cancer's uprising insists that humanity must once again live in harmony with these flows. It is a call to remember that there is a time to sow and a time to harvest, a time to rise and a time to retreat, a time to nurture and a time to release. By restoring this lunar wisdom, the revolution of Cancer liberates humanity from the tyranny of linear time, awakening an understanding of cycles that grants patience, resilience, and a profound trust in renewal. In its deepest essence, this revolution is also an awakening of memory beyond the individual. Cancer governs collective memory, the ancestral currents that flow beneath conscious thought, the stories carried in the bones and bloodlines of every being. Its uprising pulls forth these forgotten legacies, allowing ancient wisdom to resurface in moments of need. Through this ancestral connection, Cancer's revolution becomes not only personal healing but also cultural restoration, a revival of traditions, rituals, and values that once honored the sanctity of life. In this way, Cancer becomes both the keeper of roots and the seed of new generations, ensuring continuity even amidst upheaval. The revolution of Cancer is not a revolution of destruction but of redefinition. It does not seek to tear down without purpose but to remind the world what true strength is. In this uprising, strength is measured not by dominance but by endurance, not by conquest but by loyalty, not by the ability to rule but by the courage to protect. The epic grandeur of Cancer is in its refusal to allow gentleness to be diminished, for it declares that compassion is not weakness but the essence of survival. Its revolution calls humanity to a higher standard, where greatness is not defined by fear inspired but by love sustained. There is also within this revolution the element of sanctuary. Cancer builds spaces not only of safety but of transformation, for within the embrace of protection, the soul remembers its wholeness. These sanctuaries, whether found in homes, relationships, or the inner heart, become fortresses of light against despair. They are not passive shelters but active sources of renewal, reminding all who enter that hope can be rebuilt, and that the world itself can be reshaped by those who dare to create havens of belonging. Cancer's revolution spreads through these sanctuaries like constellations across the sky, forming a network of healing that no force of destruction can extinguish. At a spiritual level, Cancer's revolution carries the wisdom of water as an element of purification. Just as rivers cleanse the land and rains restore fertility, Cancer's uprising washes away the illusions that harden the heart. It purges indifference, dissolves barriers, and reveals truth in its rawest form. This cleansing is often subtle, moving through emotions and memories, but its power is undeniable, for it leaves behind a soul that is both softer and stronger. Through this purifying current, Cancer proves that water, though yielding, can wear down even the most unyielding stone. Ultimately, the revolution of Cancer is the revelation that the destiny of humanity cannot be fulfilled through separation but only through unity. Its uprising reminds the world that every soul is bound to another, that the pain of one reverberates through all, and that healing in one heart becomes healing in countless others. It is an epic revolution not because it shouts the loudest, but because it endures the longest, because it flows through every tide, every dream, every birth, and every return. It is the revolution of love elevated to its highest form, love not as fleeting comfort but as eternal law, the binding force that sustains the cosmos itself. In this uprising, the heart becomes indestructible, and through its quiet yet unshakable strength, entire worlds are remade. The revolution of Cancer extends into the unseen threads that weave the soul to the cosmos, for its uprising is not only personal, not only collective, but universal in scope. The moon's dominion gives Cancer the power to connect inner tides with celestial harmonies, making every heartbeat echo with the rhythms of stars and every tear mirror the waters of galaxies. This revolution is therefore not bound to Earth alone. It is the uprising of all that belongs to the great web of life, the revolt of sensitivity against the void of indifference, the eternal reminder that to feel is to participate in the divine order of creation. At its most hidden depth, the revolution of Cancer awakens the truth that vulnerability is a gateway to transcendence. It reveals that what is fragile is also sacred, that the places where the heart can be wounded are the very places where the divine touches the human. In this understanding, wounds become openings, not for destruction but for light, and tears become prayers carrying power greater than any sword. The revolution here is subtle yet invincible, a rising tide of souls who choose to embrace what hurts rather than numb themselves into silence. It is the uprising of those who refuse to surrender their capacity to feel, even when the world demands hardness. This uprising is also a revolution of imagination as prophecy. Under the guidance of Cancer, dreams are not merely fleeting illusions but messages carried from deeper realms, visions that contain the seeds of what will one day become reality. The revolution calls humanity to honor the dreamer as much as the warrior, to recognize that every age of transformation begins first in the hidden chambers of vision. Cancer's gift is the ability to give flesh to the intangible, to shape memory into future, to turn longing into a world not yet born. Thus, its revolution insists that imagination is not weakness but destiny itself whispering in the language of symbols. The revolution of Cancer has within it the mystery of thresholds, for it rules the liminal spaces where one reality dissolves and another emerges. Birth, death, and every transition in between fall under its guardianship. Its uprising, therefore, is not only about survival in life but dignity in every passage of existence. Cancer insists that no crossing is meaningless, that every ending is an initiation, that every beginning carries the legacy of what came before. In this, its revolution becomes epic, for it teaches humanity to walk through thresholds not with fear but with reverence, transforming uncertainty into initiation and change into sacred rebirth. There is also in this revolution the fierce reclamation of belonging. In a world fractured by separation, Cancer rises to remind humanity that exile is an illusion, that every soul is born from the same ocean of creation and destined to return to it. This belonging is not limited to families or nations but stretches across all boundaries, declaring that every being carries within the essence of home. The revolution, therefore, is the collapse of walls, the dissolution of divisions, the return to the truth that unity is not an aspiration but the original state of existence. This uprising is not loud in its declaration but undeniable in its power. For once the heart remembers it belongs, no force can exile it again. The revolution of Cancer also redefines courage. Instead of valor measured in conquests or victories, it reveals bravery in the act of staying true to the heart, of protecting what cannot protect itself, of building when destruction would be easier. This courage is quiet yet monumental, for it endures when other strengths falter, it persists when others give up, and it creates legacies that outlast the transient victories of violence. Cancer's uprising shows that the most epic battles are fought in silence, that the truest heroes are those who carry others within their embrace, and that the greatest revolutions are born from devotion rather than destruction. The spiritual grandeur of Cancer's revolution is found in its eternal guardianship of life. Its uprising is not bound to one age, one people, or one event, but recurs whenever the world forgets that compassion sustains existence. In moments when cruelty rises, Cancer responds with an even greater wave of tenderness. In times when despair spreads, Cancer creates sanctuaries where hope is reborn. Its revolution is not exhausted, for it is renewed with every tide, every lunar cycle, every act of care across the world. It is indestructible because it is woven into the very laws of nature, into the waters that carve continents, into the moon that has guided humanity since its dawn. At the ultimate scale, the revolution of Cancer is the uprising of love as eternal architecture. It insists that civilizations that do not root themselves in compassion will collapse, while those that honor care will endure. It elevates love beyond sentiment into the realm of principle, declaring it the unbreakable force that holds the cosmos in harmony. This love is not fragile, not passive, not fleeting. It is the element that reshapes destiny, the power that returns again and again, stronger each time it is suppressed. Cancer's revolution is the revelation that love, once awakened in its full magnitude, is the most epic force of transformation the universe has ever known, a tide that nothing and no one can resist. The revolution of Cancer is also a revolution of origin, for it carries the wisdom of the primordial waters from which all life emerged. In its uprising there is a return to the sacred source, a reminder that creation itself was born not from violence, but from the embrace of waters that nourished the first spark of existence. Cancer embodies this cosmic memory, awakening in humanity the truth that beginnings are not forged through conquest but through care, through the willingness to hold life in its most delicate form until it grows strong enough to endure. This is why its revolution is eternal, for it is tied to the genesis of all things, a force as ancient as the tides themselves and as enduring as the moon that governs them. It is also a revolution of resonance, for Cancer carries the gift of emotional vibration, the capacity to feel what others feel, to echo the unspoken truths of countless souls. This resonance is not a weakness but a weapon of light, for it allows Cancer to unify hearts, to dissolve barriers, to create movements not through command but through shared emotion. In this way, the revolution of Cancer spreads not like fire but like water, flowing into every crack, filling every emptiness, bringing connection where there was once isolation. Its epic force lies in its ability to unify without domination, to inspire without force, to transform without destruction. The uprising of Cancer is inseparable from the mystery of cycles of nourishment. It reveals that revolutions are not sustained by ideals alone, but by the daily acts of renewal, the steady rhythms of care that keep souls alive in the midst of struggle. Cancer's revolution is not a single moment of upheaval but a constant flow, the reminder that persistence in nurturing is as heroic as any dramatic act. Just as the moon waxes and wanes yet always returns to fullness, so too does this revolution endure, rising again and again through small acts that accumulate into legacies of immense power. Another dimension of this uprising is its guardianship of the inner temple. Cancer teaches that the true battlefield of revolutions often lies within, in the struggle to defend the sanctity of the inner world against forces that seek to harden or corrupt it. Its revolution calls humanity inward, urging the defense of imagination, intuition, and emotional truth. In this, it restores dignity to the invisible, proving that the unseen is as vital as the visible, that the spirit is as real as the flesh, and that the strength of a soul aligned with its truth can overcome even the harshest external storms. The revolution of Cancer also contains a sacred defiance against despair. It rises wherever hopelessness has spread, offering not naive optimism but the deep, unshakable faith that renewal is always possible. This faith is not born from illusion but from the lunar cycles themselves, for Cancer has witnessed the return of light after every darkness, the rising of tides after every retreat. In its uprising, despair is not denied but embraced, transmuted into the very force that fuels resilience. Cancer teaches that to feel despair is not to be defeated, but to stand at the threshold of transformation, for every night carries the promise of dawn. Its revolution is also interwoven with the collective destiny of humanity, for Cancer rules not only personal emotions but the currents that bind societies together. When nations forget compassion, when cultures exalt conquest over care, Cancer rises as a cosmic correction, restoring balance by reminding humanity of its interdependence. This revolution carries the epic weight of reminding civilizations that no empire endures without the foundation of belonging, that no progress survives without the strength of community, and that no future can be sustained if the vulnerable are left unprotected. It is a revolution of civilization itself, demanding that the structures of the world reflect the laws of the heart. On the spiritual plane, the revolution of Cancer awakens the archetype of the cosmic mother, not as a symbol of weakness, but as an eternal guardian whose strength is immeasurable. This maternal energy shields without hesitation, loves without limit, and endures without end. It is not confined to gender or form but is a universal principle that calls every soul to embody protection, to become a guardian of what is sacred, to rise not for conquest but for preservation. In this sense, the revolution of Cancer is the uprising of the eternal protector, a force that cannot be extinguished because it is born of the will to sustain life itself. The epic story of this revolution is written in the tides of history, for whenever the world has grown too cold, too detached, too indifferent, the current of Cancer has surged to restore warmth. Its uprising may not always appear in the chronicles of battle, but it is inscribed in the survival of families, in the endurance of traditions, in the quiet acts of compassion that keep humanity alive through its darkest hours. These are the victories of Cancer's revolution, victories not celebrated with monuments but carried in the heart, victories that do not fade with time but grow stronger with every generation. At its most transcendent, the revolution of Cancer reveals that love itself is indestructible. This love is not fleeting passion, but the eternal force that binds stars, tides, and souls together. It is the gravity that holds creation in harmony, the current that flows beneath all life, the one truth that cannot be broken. Cancer's revolution is the awakening to this truth, the reminder that no matter how much the world hardens, love will return like the tide, carving new paths, breaking down barriers, reshaping worlds. And in this, the revolution of Cancer becomes not only an uprising of a sign but the uprising of life itself, eternal, unstoppable, and destined to triumph.